My name is Stephen Nimrod, and I'm a marine biologist at St. George's University. I also work closely with the Grenada Marine Protected Areas program in terms of conducting research within the marine protected area with a view to improving the coral reef health and conditions of our reefs in the marine protected area. In the Caribbean, we have three major coastal ecosystems. All right, so we have mangroves, seagrass beds, and we have the coral reefs. Okay. So along the seagrass beds, this is where you'll find things like the conchs, you'll find other white sea urchins and so feeding on the seagrass. Now what you're also seeing, you're seeing some balls of stuff there. That is macroalgae you're looking at there. And this also happens to be one of the major problems we have on our reefs here. A lot of the reefs that were coral dominated before have now become algal dominated, as in macroalgae. Some people call it seaweed and all that sort of stuff. It's not exactly seaweed, but it's what they call algae, and they have different types of algae. However, the problem with the marine environment is we have the concept outer sight, outer mind. So usually once we can't see it, we don't bother with it, but it's until you actually come here, you'll see it. What you're looking at down here is a lot of broken dead corals, okay? The coral rubbles. Now this, to a large extent, was caused by the storm surge in 1999 from Hurricane Lenny. Y'all remember that one? Okay. Now imagine we already had the natural disasters having an impact, but we also now continue to put more pressure on them by spearfishing and pollution and so. So we're not really helping the situation, but we're further compounding the situation. Now, if you look at the coral reefs there, you're starting to see some bits of the coral reefs and so. Alright, more soft corals again as we move on. Okay, but you're going to notice also that the corals many of the corals are in a degraded condition in terms of they are actually covered by macroalgae to some extent. So we're now pretty much looking to enter into the marine protected area. Alright. This is the Molineux-Boussajou Marine Protected Area. Now what you saw there is a large barrel sponge. A barrel sponge, okay? So there's a number of different marine sponges. So you're seeing the yellow pencil corals, alright? Again, when you look, you see quite a lot of the dead rubble corals, and it just goes to show you how long it takes for corals to recover after being significantly damaged, physically damaged. So most persons, when they come out to fish, alright, they tend to drop the anchors anyway, alright, and you'll see what happens. So imagine you're dropping your anchor on something like this down here. What do you think you're going to be doing? Alright, so you see how much of the damage we have down here? So how many persons have actually seen a reef before? Or come over reefs before? Each organism has a different function on the reef. Just like in society, everybody has a different function. Now, there are a number of urchins you're seeing there, the black urchins and so. They are grazers. So what they do is they tend to eat the macroalgae.
Oh, that was for them scavengers, right?
That's the ones that, the grazers. Yeah. As well as the parrotfish, or what we would call locally kakabawi and so. As well as the doctor fish, which is called a surgeon fish. Okay? So what they do is they tend to eat the macroalgae. However, when you have a lot of spearfishing in these places, the spearfishing essentially removes most of the grazers, alright, because this is a fish of choice. And what you have happening is, when you don't have sufficient grazers, what do you think will happen? It's the equivalent of, put it this way, if your lawnmower breaks down in the rainy season, what happens to your yard? It overgrows with grass. And it's the same thing, or a similar concept out here. You're getting to see the macroalgae covering the reefs much closer now. Alright, so you see the sort of impact. So once it covers the reef, so you see some of the branching corals there. Alright, Now the problem with the macroalgae when it covers the reef, remember corals are animals and they feed by photosynthesis just as plants, all right? And as such, they would need light to be able to photosynthesize, all right? And once you cover them over with the macroalgae, obviously it will be reducing the amount of light that they need. Now this sort of system you see here, of this type of fringing reef, you call it a spur and groove. So you see the reef goes out into little grooves and spurs away from the shore. All right, so that's what you'll see here.
So that is a reef that's the fringing reef here?
Yeah, this is a fringing reef, but it also has a spur and groove formation. Okay, so now you're looking at seeing the different types of branching corals and everything trying to make a comeback.
Yeah.
So this is some of what we've been seeing over the last few years since we've implemented the marine protected area. We see some of the juvenile corals and so continuing to grow, all right? So you see one of what they call a Montastria corals there. It grows in a much larger, massive form as opposed to the smaller finger-like branching corals. What you're seeing here is a mix of the hard and soft corals, okay? So you all see how the hard and the soft corals intermingle and mix? You can damage all the corals, all right? So that's why we ask people to be absolutely careful when they're out on the reefs. See a man at the desk? All right, that's the lost correspondent. See one here? All right, so that's the price of the deep. You saw the lost correspondent. You all see some of the ladies in the sun, lying in the sun?
This is paradise. Welcome to the green. Walk down. Yeah. Sound. Green. This is your voice. The other day me go a club out of London. Who approached me, this beautiful woman? She said, excuse me, could I ask you a question? Me say, sure baby, please just prolong. The woman turned, she asked me where me come from. Say me come from down the Spice Island. I could have seen it in a she aye. She already want this island boy. She hold me hand, she pull me on the dance floor. Hold me tight and she won't let me go. When me try what the woman pull me back. And in me ear she start talk and she said, she want the spice and rock. Say welcome to the rock. She love this spice and rock. Give me the rock. She want the spice and rock. Say welcome to the rock. She love this spice and rock.
So you all had an opportunity to see the reef from the glass bottom boat, and some of you had a chance to see it from actually snorkeling. Now, one of the things, we've looked at the reef from a number of different angles. What do you see as one of the most degrading features of the reef?
One of the degrading features was the macroalgae infesting the coral reef.
Alright, that's very good. In fact, that was quite obvious and quite dominant. You will see a lot of the macroalgae in some areas of the reef actually covering and smothering the corals. Alright, and as we said, this is one of the biggest issues we have on the reef now in terms of trying to get rid of that. And what are two ways in which we can reduce macroalgae on the reef?
Stop spearfishing so the fishes can eat away the algae. No.
All right, that's good. That's good. Reducing spearfishing. If we stop spearfishing, which is correct, because if we stop spearfishing, then we would allow the grazers to actually increase in abundance and size, and in increasing in abundance and size, they would now be more abundant to actually graze down the macroalgae. So that's another one of the ways we can do so. All right, that's very good. From what you all have seen, anybody can tell me pretty much from your opinion, what are the two most common corals you all saw?
Sea plumes and
Which is a soft coral?
yeah, and the coral fan,
The sea fan?
the sea fan. I mean, sea fan.
Anybody else want to name one?
So the two most common corals you saw on the reef here is actually two of our soft corals, which is the sea plume and the Gorgonian sea fan. In terms of the hard corals, anybody, which was the most common hard coral? Which one?
Not the sponge, huh?
the mountainous coral.
Okay, so the Montastri annularis you saw? All right, so you saw the Montastri annularis. All right. Also, we saw a number of marine sponges. Anybody remember any of the marine sponges we saw? So you saw the barrel sponge and you saw the yellow tube sponge and the blue vase sponge. All right, so the sponges were quite common on the reef also. What about fish? Which was your most outstanding fish you saw today? All right, so I think we have numerous opinions of which was the most common fish and most outstanding fish.
General Major.
Sergeant Major? So we have the Sergeant Major, we have the parrotfish. Anybody remember the puffer fish we saw earlier on today? We saw two large puffer fishes. All right. Okay, we also saw the filefish and we also saw the trumpet fish. We saw the cowfish again, so you all saw quite a number of fishes. You saw the gold spotted eel. All right, so there was a number, so in fact you saw quite a bit. All right, the reef is showing signs of recovery. However, it needs your assistance to recover fully. And you mentioned a number of the ways we can, a number of the things we can do to help resuscitate the reefs. All right, and this is what we want you to actually do: assist with spreading the word and how we can help to reduce some of the pressures on the reef. All right, a lot of the human-induced pressures that we actually put on the reef. Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed it, and we should be seeing you all come out here more often. All right.
Well, on the behalf of the tuning program of PBC and Mr. Abraham, we'd like to thank you for giving us your time to show us about the coral reefs and the marine life, and we hope to see you around again. So thank you once again.
Thank you so very much, and you're most welcome. And as I said, please do come again. And I don't expect this to be the first and the last time I see you all, but I expect to see you all around the marine environment more often. So I look forward to seeing you all again. All right. And it's been my pleasure actually hosting you guys here today. So thank you again. Bye bye.